It's the paddle. It's the tool, right? I'm a photographer. I don't have a good enough camera right now. Oh! You called it, didn't you? All right. Sorry about that. Welcome to another episode of The Daily Creative. I'm Chase Jarvis. I just spilled my water, but we're going anyway. This is the show where if you have your questions about your journey toward becoming an aspiring or maybe even a professional creator, this is where I answer those questions. You call in, I answer them, and we talk about it as a community. I hope you enjoy the show. Before we get hung up in any more intro stuff, I just want to get right into the show. Finn, you got questions for me? Or are you Instagramming? You're Instagramming this.
I needed your advice on something. So it took me more than 2 years to convince myself to start a podcast, and I finally started a few weeks ago, and it's about social entrepreneurship, and
Cool.
I'm interviewing people who truly represent what it means to be courageous, and I've had some pretty interesting people, but I'm having a really hard time reaching out to my targeted audience. So I have a full-time job in bank, but whenever I have time, I go to networking events, and I'm engaged in social media, but
Great.
I just wanted to ask if you have any advice on getting right people to listen to your content or engage in your content.
Great.
So I will really appreciate your feedback and keep doing you because you absolutely
Awesome.
rock.
Shristi, thank you for the call. The question is a popular one. It's not just always about podcasting. This question is, I field this question from a myriad of fields, of industries, and the answer is the same. It sounds to me like you said you just started this, you finally got the courage to do X or Y, and what you want is you want results tomorrow. It's not going to happen. How much time have you given yourself to decide if this is something you really want to do or is going to be successful, or are you testing and theorizing that this might be something you're interested in? If it doesn't sound to me like it's your true passion, just based on your call. Now, let's just assume it is. That I heard that in your voice, and I could be wrong, but although I've counseled thousands and thousands of creatives, it sounded like you were talking about too casually, like podcasting is cool now, so you want to do podcasting. If it's not that, and if I'm misreading it, much respect, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do this for 2 years before you even blink or are worried about people tuning into your content. I want you to make 50 episodes, 100 episodes. Now, I feel like with specifically podcasting, I want to give you a little bit of a secret. I've done a handful of these projects. One, a book project called the Seattle 100, where I engaged 100 influencers in Seattle to tell a story about that book. It was a best-selling book specifically around not just Seattle, that was the context, but it was around growing and changing, shifting culture. The same is true with Chase Jarvis Live, my interview show that was started maybe 5 years ago. Now it's the podcast. You guys know how to find that. Just chasejarvis.com/podcast, itunes.com/chasejarvis. If you deconstruct the guests that I've had on there, or if you look at the book that I made, the Seattle 100 book, they were made off the same principle, which is you find out what's the unique angle of your story, of your podcast. What's the name of her podcast?
Limitless Grit.
Limitless Grit. I love the name of the podcast, and I hope you have Limitless Grit, because this will be a no thing for you. You're like, great, I'm on it. But take this prescription seriously. Make 50 to 100 episodes and don't look up. Just grind. Make the episodes. And have you defined what your unique proposal is? For me, I start out every episode, hey, this is Chase, welcome to another episode of Chase Jarvis Live. Here on CreativeLive, this is where I sit down with the world's top entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and creators and unlock actionable and powerful insights with the goal of helping you live your dreams and career, hobby, and life. Do you know that line about your podcast? And can you say it like that? And do people understand that when they go to your podcast, what they're going to get? First thing. Second thing is, do you have guests in that field, whatever your field is, Limitless Grit? If it's around, she also said it was around social entrepreneurship. So are you getting guests, and this is some highfalutin shit, are you getting guests like Scott Harrison, like Lila Jana from Samasource? Are you like Blake McCoskey? I know these are huge names. You don't have to start there, but I would start deconstructing the connections of those people through LinkedIn, through listening to them. They're going to mention their friends. How you're reaching out to those people, because what you need to do, the philosophy is get people excited about the thing, know what you're doing, get people excited about that thing, people in your field, start having those guests on and repeat. Those folks, what can you do then to leverage those guests, their social followings? You want to grow your podcast? If you do the best interview that person has ever had, they are going to want to point to it. How many times can you repeat that cycle, add value to those people's lives? What you're trying to do is capture an amazing interview of those people such that they think about the interview and the work that you did as valuable, then they want to point at it. If they think it was just a meh interview, and I've done this, I've been on podcasts, I was like, man, that was kind of mediocre at best. I have a hard time directing my social following or CreativeLive towards that podcast because it wasn't a good interview. Are you doing amazing interviews? If you are, people are going to want to point to them. You do that one time, and then 2 times, and 3 times, and then the people who are on your show, they end up inviting, or they end up offering to connect you to other friends of theirs in the space because you did a phenomenal job. Now, this sounds to me, I'm guessing you're listening to this like, oh my God, that sounds like a ton of work. He prescribed that I do 50 of these things before I even look up. Just do 50 and do it hardcore, do it with this methodology, and then evaluate. If I pulled up your podcast right now, what's it called again one more time? Grit? Limitless Grit. If I pulled up Limitless Grit and there's 5 podcasts, I would be pissed. Not pissed, not literally. I love the question. But I would say, you're just getting started. Don't get frustrated. You're just like, the road ahead is paved with gold. You have to do the work. So I think that's philosophically the way I want you to think about the work. Tactically, some of the things that you should do. It's stamina, patience, focus, do the work. Use these guests as an opportunity to improve your craft. And if the guests find your craft valuable, they will point back at your podcast. That will get a X, and pretty soon, then you can reach out to people cold turkey. Most of the guests that have been on my show, they started out as friends, peers who were focused on the same thing I was, and then they introduced me to other people for whom I could add value. It's not about them adding value to your podcast. It's about you providing them with the service to record their story in a beautiful, inspiring, motivating way and introducing them to a new audience that you've built over time. So that's how I want you to think about it. Please let us know how it goes. Do these 50 episodes. And if you've already done 50 or 500 and you're still stuck, call back and I'll give you a different answer because I got a different answer for the second half of that. But that's the answer to numero uno, your question for today. So, Shristi, thanks a lot for calling in. I love this question about podcast. I'm gonna recommend one more thing here. We got some on CreativeLive. There's a handful of podcasts. One, Lewis Howe's got a great podcast. He did a great podcasting class at CreativeLive. Another, Neil Patel, talks a lot about driving traffic to sites or podcasts or things that you're trying to build. And then another one, Alex Bloomberg, around storytelling. He is the This American Life guy, amazing storyteller, won all kinds of awards for his podcast and startup. What was the other massive one?
American Life.
No, This American Life. I already said that. Anyway, Alex Bloomberg's class on CreativeLive about storytelling. I want you to pick up that class too. Super good. Those 3 things will provide some additional value and insight. And look at, deconstruct what other people are doing. Look at my show. You can see a thread of like, oh, these people are related, these people are friends, they're recommending one another. Same with either Lewis's podcast or Tim Ferriss, the Tim Ferriss show. There's a lot of shining examples for you to deconstruct and then do it yourself. All right, thanks a lot. Shristi, have a good one. Finn, I want another question on the Daily Creative. Another question, please.
Hey Chase, my name is Xavier Thomas. At Art Like Us on Instagram and all over the internet. But my question is about concert photography. What's the norm for contacting publicists and different contacts for these artists to shoot these concerts? And how should I go about finding out who these people are?
Awesome. All right, Xavier, is that what his name was? Xavier, great question. If you couldn't hear it, was a little bit jumbled. And I think you're doing an Instagram Live right now, aren't you? All right. So the Instagram Live folks, if you couldn't hear this, he was asking about concert photography. How do I get started? How do I have a relationship with these folks? Start small, but start. Like all this pontificating, wondering, like you have a camera, are you going to a show? I don't care if you're buying a ticket, a $9, $10 ticket to go to the local show. You need to start taking pictures because the area that you're talking about working in is very specialized. It's hard to break into. It's hard to make real money. And I'm just setting these things up for you. Like, this is the reality of the situation that you're asking me to do. I don't know if you want to make a living and a life doing this stuff or if this is a hobby, but it's very hard to break into and it's very hard to make money. I want that to cue one of two things in you. You either go, well, I don't give a shit. Like, this is the thing I'm doing. I want to do this more than anything, and I'm going to do what it takes. And if it's hard, that's awesome because there's going to be less competition. Thing two would be like, oh my God, Chase says it's hard to make money and break in. I don't want to do that. If Chase says it's hard, it's really hard. Great, then go do something else because you didn't really want it bad enough. Let's pretend you're in the first camp. You want it. You're like, I don't care. I'm going to do this. This is my calling in life. If that's the case, start small. Start taking pictures, buy the $10 ticket, work your ass to the front of the row, the thing, you get smashed in, you're taking those photographs. What can you do to A, get great at your craft? B, go there all the time, not just on the Friday and Saturday night shows, shoot all of the shows because you gotta put in time to master your craft. If you're just another sort of low to medium level concert photographer, no money, no game, it's not gonna happen for you. It might be fun, and you might be able to get a couple free shows out of the deal, but I'm not assuming that that's your goal. I'm assuming that you want to be the best. And I could be wrong, so take this with a grain of salt. But if you want to be the best, you have to, how are you then so known that the first club that you start, do you know the owners? Do you know the sound guys? Do you know the bands that are coming? How into it are you? Are you doing the other 50%? This freaking thing comes up in every single episode. This video that I put out called The Other 50%, you should watch that. Are you doing the other 50%? Then go beyond that one club. Are you the guy who's known, like, oh man, I got the Pixies are coming. I want Xavier to shoot it. You have to become that guy, and the way you do it is you're there all the time. This just showing up, you've heard that just showing up is half the game. You have to have talent, you have to be skilled, you have to have all those things, but just being so relentless with your pursuit of the thing is incredible, which made me want to cue a book called The Happiness of Pursuit, as opposed to In Pursuit of Happiness, by my man Chris Guillebeau. It's a great idea to read that book. I think it tells you how much value and how much pull you can feel when you're pursuing something that makes you happy. So concert photography should make you very happy because it's going to be a long road. Now let's just assume, I don't want to get out in front of myself, but you need to, if you're not like the guy in Atlanta or the guy in Seattle on the music scene that everyone wants to shoot their stuff, that's probably like, what do you think guys, like 2 years, a year, 2 years worth of work? Probably 2 years of going to all the shows. And if that sounds whack to you, quit. Don't even start. Or just dabble. Because that is, or if you're trying to just get some free tickets, you can do that with 5, 6, 8 shows. You know the doorman. But if you really want to break in, like Rolling Stone, all that kind of stuff, that's how you have to do it. If you do that thing, you are the guy in what's the music town in Tennessee? Nashville. If you're the guy in Nashville, people will be calling you, okay? You will know who's coming. The bands will be looking out for you. That's when you start to sort of spread your wings to the Rolling Stones, to the music blogs, to Fader, to, help me, other music blogs. Anyway, I've said enough. I think you have it in you. I heard passion. It was muffled in your voice there. I heard it. I want you to do a gut check on how bad you want it. All these things apply. Watch the other 50% video, and then go do the work. Be patient. 2 years from now, if I'm wrong, I'll take you out to dinner. Come find me. I'll take you out to beautiful dinner. I think I'm right. All right. Is that 2? That's 2. That about wraps it up for this episode of Daily Creative. My name's Chase Jarvis. It's my goal to answer your questions on your journey of becoming an aspiring or a pro in this world that we are creating together as creators, creator. I can only say creator so many times. Have your question answered on this show, 802-962-4343. 4357. If you're calling from anywhere on the planet, you can still do this for very cheaply, +1, then 802-962-4357. I listen to all the voicemails, pick the ones that are going to be on the show. We've got a nice queue, but I picked a couple fresh ones that just came in off the last couple days, actually. Answer those questions. I hope you got value. Thanks for being a part of this community. I love you.